We're going live.
Okay, already time to stop by.
Hi, welcome to Sunday service. I'll let you enjoy the ambiance.
We do it your place, eh? You should have fussed outside the church afterwards. Trying to talk about.
I think I probably just went voting.
Yeah, right. You're the winner. Hello. Yes, sorry.
So you know the drill.
I know the drill. Bum, bum, bum.
And you're singing the doxology for us. Perfect. And then at the end,
You'll announce it. You'll let us sing,
right, yes, I will announce that they will stand and speak, give us an application. And then I will say, if you need standing while our musicians. So that you'll get plenty of warning. After the message, I get up, I do my closing words.
Yeah.
After I extinguish the chalice, I'll give you a nod.
okay.
Well, you're doing.
Line everyone, not just one mountain, but every mountain.
Each and every day. 10,000 steps through that way.
There you go.
Okay. No, thank you.
We're good, thanks.
Yeah, so that's unfortunate.
Yeah, and I never got invited back. That was too bad,
Yeah,
because
that's.
I really did want to sing there.
Yeah, well, maybe we can do that.
Oh, well. I'm not saying that.
Well, no, I'm sure they love it. The guy who does it, is not well. Older guy, he's in his 80s. He's from Texas. He's a real drawly Texan.
Well, Colin, you could do the 8th or you could do the 27th. Wait a minute. I'm old. I think maybe August 3rd, or maybe the 26th.
And it went on like this for weeks. It's a crazy example.
Apparently, there are a lot of people from Texas.
Oh, yeah.
And there's a couple from Texas who brought home on New Year's Eve. And, and it's about the best places.
We really. Who was it? Who you know about?
Someone told me, yeah, a friend I have, we did the gas station. Oh, yeah, and I haven't read it yet, but I did on it.
Food. Move.
MOVE.
Oh,
Move.
Move. Wow. Oh, we're the last bastion.
Yeah, we might just want to stay
Morning.
there forever, for that good reason too.
Yeah, well, a lot of good reasons.
I like
I mean, yeah, one day I'll want to go travel.
Is this our home?
Where do you want to set the program?
Because anyway, I mean, if you get a plant yourself somewhere, I'm sure you get respected.
You're right.
And people speak English, and I like the idea of living in Italy, but unless you're absolutely fluent, you just need to go. So you travel, you come back.
Yeah, travel. That's what I get.
Now, are you going away? You mentioned Florida, right?
Yeah, for the dog show next time. We'll do a month from now.
No, the dogs are not competing.
Well, Patty is competing with one of us, yes. Because she just had both knees replaced, so she's not coming back. But she's got one. I think number one.
To train to run the streets.
Yeah, she has to train both. And then a white in February. Gosh, I gotta get down to Chicago. I know, you know, I'm going to Chicago, but that, and then, a couple of friends. Seattle.
Now, remind me, Carlson.
Testing?
No, sorry, the gentleman who died, his wife lived in Hawaii.
Oh, Ellsworth, yeah.
Ellsworth.
Ellsworth Peterson.
Carol, she's still around,
Oh,
right?
yes.
Is she in Hawaii and staying there?
No, she sold home. So she said your house was busy, but I know she wants to go visit.
So you travel together, or is it just, it was just
We
while
may,
she?
you never
while she
know.
left?
Yeah, yeah, we don't know,
Okay.
but I'll be taking two people from my house.
Okay.
So
Maui, always Maui.
No, well, it will be this year, I think 3 nights in Maui, 4 or 5, and. Now, are you gonna take any trips this year?
Well, I want to go home, but travel is so unstable. Yeah. I'd like to do a big trip, but down. With all this going on, finances and stuff, I should. But I'm ready for a big trip somewhere. Antarctica, Sheridan Fuego, or somewhere spectacular.
Spectacular.
Somewhere I won't go later.
I still keep thinking about your living situation, is it?
Well, now I'm back in the house
Okay.
because no renters anymore. I'm back in the house. And someday it's like don't till we finish. Almost giving up on.
I will be.
Yeah, right. So I'm okay now. Next summer though, I might be doing the same thing.
You know, you deserve a nice place. A nice, safe place that's yours.
No walls at the door.
Yes.
It'll happen.
Yeah.
This is a long game. It
Good.
makes me feel young. Oh. 65, but I'm like, no.
Yeah, this is getting a bit old. Hi,
Good morning, everyone.
How are you?
Good, you?
Great, great, thank you.
I'm leading into our conversation about a entire red ribbon around the tree that you think you want down. Is it, and take a look and see what's there.
Thank you.
When you get a
Oh,
chance.
look right now.
I don't want to interrupt your prep.
That's a little bit embarrassing. I saw it.
Good morning. Ready, good mysteries, ladies?
Hi. Morning, how are you?
I'm good, I'm good, how are you?
Oh, it's so good to see you. Yeah.
Good to be here. You have to be careful because our conversation is.
I'm so glad.
Delighted to be back. So,
I figured I didn't need to take a snooze. I was coming here.
Okay, just kidding.
okay.
Hey, I wonder if you could send out an email and get a head count, so I know how many to tell Al how big of a table.
You don't always,
You think 6 or 8 or?
Oh, I'm not curious.
Joe. Yeah, 6 to 8.
Okay.
I can send out a reminder, but not everybody else.
One that I'm gonna hang out by the
Even if you
door.
can't, I mean, I thought you should know, you should do it knowingly.
Stop it.
It's a good thing.
That's a little early, isn't it?
No, he has one. Yeah, you're early.
Oh, I
For a year, but now.
You're the
He's gonna try it to
It's
see if
okay.
it'll walk for him. So what I have said.
Well,
is- It's real.
sounds a little exhausting as I think about it, but that's, you know, I mean, didn't he have probably have
You don't know what it is. Well, you know. He has an appointment next week with Dr. Hogan, and that's when I, if I'm slotted in, I just get back once in a while. I know you guys are used to it.
Yeah.
How are you?
Yes. And it's not very low. A little bit of the dog.
Right.
I did the read for you, obviously. Like to sit by the window.
I read with interest all
Yeah.
Good morning, good morning.
Same time, I think that.
Good morning, Barb.
Good morning.
How are you?
Oh, how are you?
Good.
Good.
How you been?
Good. I see your name in the paper every once in a while with a letter.
Oh,
Yeah.
every once in a while, I get up at 3 o'clock in the morning and just go crazy.
That's all right. How's everything else?
Everything's good.
Yeah. So are you posted?
No, I'm still hospice chaplain.
Oh, well, that's.
I was in Door in Kewanee County, and now I'm just in Door County
Yeah, that's.
because we're getting busy.
I admire you for doing that.
Hey, you're on camera.
Well, and what's worse is it picks up your conversation.
Yeah, I know. That's okay. I haven't said anything yet that I don't want to say.
It's nice.
Yeah.
Right, yes. How are you? Yeah, Harry's like.
I forgot to mention
Tell her hi for me.
Where are we sitting, Penny? You could sit there, either way.
Oh, either way.
We still have 5 more minutes, so if you want to visit together, the service will start in about 5 minutes. Still have more folks coming in.
So they're kind of. Social distance.
We don't social distance stuff.
Being so legal. Usually, well, the order of service says you're supposed to be 2 years.
Yeah, but look at David. That's just the rest of the.
Morning.
Sarah.
Oh, this is nothing.
But these are all brand new windows. Just put in the last one. Hello window. They were. I had to ask Colin something. Yeah. No. We also do YouTube. I think it's the band.
Yeah.
I'm glad you're, yes.
Thank you, Colin. It was beautifully played. Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Door County. We're so pleased you've chosen to attend or view our service this morning. This congregation might look small, but be assured, we are large enough to include those from many cultures, backgrounds, religions, and traditions. Unitarian Universalists covenant to affirm and promote the inherent worth and dignity of every person, no exceptions. Everyone is valued and welcome here in this place. My name is Susan Leader. I'll be your service leader today, and I'd like to extend a special welcome to our visitors. Is there anyone here for the first time or hasn't been here in a while that's willing to stand and introduce yourselves? It's kind of our custom.
Morning, everybody. Christine here. That's my husband.
Morning.
Chris and Bill, and you're from
Ellison.
Bay. Welcome. A little bird told me you were going to be here this morning. Yes.
Chris and Karen Stout from Egg Harbor.
Chris and Karen from Egg Harbor, welcome.
We're Lee and Barbara Jacoby, and we live in Sister Bay, and we're fans of Barbara Simon.
Lee and Barbara from Sister Bay, part of the fan club. Okay, if you haven't already done so, we invite you to sign our guest book, which is just outside the door as you leave this room. We very much appreciate everyone wearing masks and honoring social distancing as best you can. We are taking precautions. We're not singing together. We no longer pass the offering plate. There are collection plates out in the foyer. Now, Hank this week was threatening to put big red ribbons on them. Hank, did you do that? No? Okay. Anyway, we would love for you to support our fellowship financially. You can also make a contribution online on our website, UUFDC. There is a donate button, and you can donate safely there if you prefer. We have also made a change by downsizing our coffee and conversation, a long-standing tradition. We are down to just conversation following the service. And again, as best you can, it's gotten a little tough to visit outside, which we enjoyed last summer. But remember, the gathering room is open, even though there's no coffee. And our speaker today knew that we used to have a tradition of having a talk back, a time where anyone who wants to stay after the service can engage with the speaker, ask questions, make comments, and Barb would very much like us to do that. So after the service has ended, we'll take about 5 minutes to regroup. Anyone who feels comfortable doing so, we'll gather over on this side of the room for maybe 15 minutes and have a conversation, a talk back like we used to say. So think about doing that if you like. Does anyone have an announcement to make? Anything related to the work of the fellowship? If so, Terry will bring you the microphone and hold it for you.
Hi, I'm Trish Black, representing the Caring Committee. If you caught the e-blast yesterday, there was a list there for our tradition of reverse Advent. We're kicking it off earlier this year. One of our committee members suggested that we start this initiative earlier so we can get food to the pantry. So it's kind of holiday focused, so keep that in mind. Do it as you wish. Go tomorrow to the pig and collect everything on the list and go drop it off to what pantry is convenient for you, or make a weekly trip, or wait till the 20th of December and take it all on that day. But please keep those people who are food insecure in mind and in your hearts. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Helene DeLeo. On the anniversary committee, we are sponsoring the collection of hats and mittens and scarves for the Boys and Girls Club. And there's a bin out there, it's almost half full. So we're going to take the first bin over to them right after Thanksgiving. So you have another 10 days or so if you have not already contributed. Also, don't forget to contribute money because we're collecting for that group as well through December. Thanks.
Again, you may have read in the e-blast, we have now met the matching fund and exceeded it. So we're excited about that.
Hi, I'm Mark Richards. I'm speaking for the Social Justice Committee. We just want to let you know that we've made sort of a shift in the way that we do things. And so what we're going to be doing is looking for ways for people of the fellowship to participate in events. And so we're looking for like one-off actions, ways that people can participate in a single event rather than get involved in a long continuous thing. Because we believe that as much as we love your wealth and your wisdom, we'd also like your work.
Just one more announcement. I'll put on my program committee chair hat for just a moment. We're wondering if some of you might be able to help us out. Here's our situation. As you might guess, finding ways to produce the Sunday service throughout the pandemic has been, we'll call it, quite the journey. So with the ongoing uncertainties, it is not always possible to find a speaker who's willing to commit either to driving up to Door County or to plan those months in advance. So there are times, as we have in the past, that we may need to use a podcast and build our service around a message or a speech that's already been done. We may need to do that again. So we're wondering if maybe you have a favorite you would like to nominate, a favorite message, a favorite speaker. Keep in mind that we want something more timeless as well as something with good audio quality. Not all of them turned out as well as we would like. So if you have an idea, send me an email, send Sarah an email, talk to someone on our program committee. I think they're all here today, Dick, Carol, and Cindy, and Jim Black. So talk to one of us if you have an idea of something we could use. The winter months might be a bit of a challenge, so we appreciate your help and your understanding. Okay. One would think, after all the times I've been your service leader, that I would have run out of religion jokes by now. Maybe some of you are hoping. I had one I thought you should hear today. A Unitarian Universalist died. Imagine her surprise when she woke up at the pearly gates and met St. Peter. Well, just amazed at this whole afterlife that she had not expected, St. Peter encouraged her to go have a look around. Go see what it's like. So she did have a look, and she came back in a little while. She said, it's all very wonderful, but I just have to ask you, I saw this pit over on the side over there, and I looked over the edge, and down below I saw, people weeping, wailing, gnashing their teeth. What was that about? Because, those were Catholics who ate meat on Friday. You go have a look around, look some more. So sure enough, she went for a little more exploration, came back and said, I found another pit, and there's more people weeping, wailing, gnashing their teeth. What is that about? Those were Baptists who danced. So he said, you better go have another look. So she did, and sure enough, she found a third pit and came back to St. Peter. I just have to ask you, who is that weeping, wailing, gnashing their teeth down there? Oh, that one? Those were Episcopalians who ate salad with their dessert fork. So, one of our favorite Episcopalians is our guest speaker today. Reverend Barbara Sanya is a Door County resident. She recently retired from St. Luke's here in Sister Bay. And parishioners from St. Luke's have noted, and I quote, her exceptional gifts as preacher, teacher, pastor, and priest, and that due in large measure to her leadership, St. Luke's is strong and healthy, end quote. And I think we all know our entire community benefits when there is a positive church presence with us. Barb, welcome. Welcome back to UUFDC. Last time you were here online, we're so happy to have you in person, and we look forward to your message a little later on. I chose our opening words from the book Original Blessing by Matthew Fox. In it, he writes about the art of savoring. If we savored more, we would buy less. We would be less compulsive, less unsatisfied. We would also work less and play more. If we savored more, we would communicate more deeply, relate more fully, compete less regularly, and celebrate more authentically. We would be relating more deeply to ourselves, to creation in all its blessedness, to history, past and future, to the now, and to God. We would be more in touch with our moral outrage because our love of life would increase so dramatically that we would become less and less tolerant of death forces. The art of savoring is our prayer. Please stand as you are comfortable and recite with me our unison affirmation, and remain standing while our musicians perform the doxology. We gather
together to seek knowledge and wisdom, to explore freely the vast reaches of mind and spirit, to celebrate within a caring community those truths, ancient and modern, which give meaning and direction to our lives.
Thank you. Please be seated. Does anyone have a joy or a concern, maybe something of a more personal nature, that you would like to share with our community today? Keep in mind, we are live streaming online, but if you have something to share, Terry will bring you the microphone.
Okay, not supposed to touch it. Okay, here. All right, well, I'm normally too shy for announcements, but I have to say that my mother passed last week. And 6 years ago, when we realized her dementia was irreversible, I knew I needed community. And I came here and I found it. I remember sitting right back there. It was November, looking out the window at that same tree with red berries on it and just having tears flowing down my face. And I felt really at home here. And she'd love to see me here. She was a spiritual explorer. Her mother was the secretary for Horace Westerfield, who was a famous Unitarian minister. And she loved to explore all sorts of different churches, not just Christian, but when I was a teenager, she was taking me to sweat lodges and covens and satsangs, and you can imagine how exciting that was for me when I was 13 in Southern California in the 70s meeting. So I'm really grateful for that. And she was just such a joyous person up until the end, even not able to walk or talk or hold things, she radiated joy. And it was such a pleasure just to sit with her in her wheelchair at Scandium. And she's a role model for me. And I know she'd be really glad to see me here. And so, thank you.
I'm so sorry, Holly, to hear that. I'm Gloria Doherty, and I actually have a joy. And it's ironic that it's a little bit connected to Holly, but also to Susan's joke about the afterlife. I, as many of you know, had a dog named Amos, who was a well-known therapy dog in Fort County. Spent many, many years at SCAN, visiting with families and residents. Some of you here, your families had him visiting you, and some of you actually were visited yourselves. Well, Amos passed away this year, and in my mind, in the afterlife, he's out searching out all those people that he used to visit, and they're getting together again. Well, my joy is that Amos has a little sister, Libby. We adopted her 1 week before we knew there was a pandemic, so she's a true pandemic puppy. But last week, not yet 2 years old, she surprised me and probably everyone else, and she passed the test to be a therapy dog. And as soon as that paperwork comes, she will be out to work, just like Amos was. And Amos did see Holly's mother when she first was at SCAN, and so he'll continue doing, Libby will continue his work. Thank you all.
Thank you. I'm Colin Welford. I have a joy, which is to thank people, really. It was 1 year ago today that my dad died in England. And I never lost a parent before, and as many of you know, that's like, oh, what is this? How do you negotiate this? But what was wonderful is that since moving here 2.5 years ago, I've found friends and connections, and even if people I don't even know very much at all, but the community gathered together to give me amazing support in this unknown territory. People from this church or place, and people from other churches, people from completely different religious or political persuasions somehow found a commonality to just be decent and warm and empathetic, and that was wonderful. And really, I'm grateful for it. I really noticed it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Terry. I just wanted to express my joy in the fact that Susan already alluded to it, and I think it was mentioned in the e-blast as well, but we have met the goal of our first Thursday promotion event for the first quarter, and that meant that we now have maximized the match, and I think we're several $100s above and beyond that as well. So, and that's after one first Thursday, third Sunday, little calendar dyslexia. But thank you so much. Keep it up, and we're going to do a full year of this, and we'll soon at the end of December be announcing the recipient for the second quarter. And I don't think the enthusiasm for that will be any less than what it has been thus far for the first quarter. So thank you.
Now I ask you to take a moment to clear your mind, set aside any thoughts or worries that might be keeping you from being fully present to hear the readings and the message that will be shared today.
First of all, I'm just going to say that I'm delighted to be here, and I'm very appreciative of the invitation to come and spend some time with you this morning. The second thing I'm going to say is I don't think I've ever been at a service where they started with a joke. And I need to confess to you that I actually used the wrong fork not too long ago. And I had heard that joke. And so I thought, oh, wow. But nothing happened. I wasn't struck by lightning. So everything was fine. So the second thing I would say is that I'm guessing, both given the time of the year and the fact that the sermon had to be titled, that you know that what I'm speaking about this morning is going to be gratitude. So think of it as a Thanksgiving sermon. And I'm thinking that no matter whatever else Thanksgiving sermons do, is they serve as maybe a light tap on the shoulder, a reminder that everything we are and everything we have is gifted to us. A long time ago, I don't even know how long ago, somebody gave me just a little book, and it was called 14,000 Things to Be Happy About. And it was written by a woman who was a lexicographer. And she said that she had started keeping track of these things when she was in the 6th grade. And she did it over the next 20 years. And so some of her, just a few, she had promises of untold adventures, or tables that fit into corners, or she was grateful for Snidely Whiplash, who was Dudley Do-Right's enemy. I didn't remember Snidely. Was he the one who kept tying people to the railroad tracks? Okay. She also said she treasured pulling out a Monopoly game on a cold winter evening, or knock-knock jokes, or 6-layer eggnog cakes, or she said hanging socks on your body because they were full of electricity. So I think some of those definitely are 6th grade kind of ideas, I think, but I'm sure you get the idea. And I was thinking it might be a really good idea if each of us would start our own list. And I remember being at a seminar one time where they suggested that over the evening we spend time writing things we were grateful for. And they suggested that you should aim for 98 things. And at first I thought, 98, you've got to be kidding, you know. But then I realized that once you got started, it was really easy to get to 98, although I never did make it to 14,000 though. So, but remember, she started in the 6th grade. So next week is Advent, the beginning of Advent. And one of the prominent messages around Advent is the need for us to wake up. Waking up is the theme in the Christian liturgies, but it's also very prominent, not just in Advent, but throughout the year in the Buddhist tradition. And I'm thinking that when you have two major traditions talking about the same thing, it's a really good idea to sit up and listen. So waking up. So the poet Kabir says it this way: wake up, you have slept millions and millions of years. Why not wake up this morning? So wake up. So the question is, wake up to what? And I would suggest that both traditions are asking us to wake up to who and what we are. And at least part of that is that we are gifted creatures living in a world where everything, including the very next breath we take, is pure gift. I think we need that admonition to wake up because most often we don't recognize the giftedness of all of it. And when Susan sent me the service sheet ahead of time, I noticed that you had the joys and concerns listed, which we just heard. And we do the same thing in the Episcopal Church. There are, in the prayers of the people, first there are petitions where people are asking for things. And, somebody's always asking for someone to be healed, or, for a family that's struggling financially, or for a family whose children are going off the rails. And there are plenty of petitions, which is right, there should be. But then following that, there's a place to offer thanksgivings for all the blessings of this life. And there, it has been my experience in a number of different congregations that people are largely silent. So I was gratified this morning to hear the joys that were mentioned, because I'm thinking when it comes time to offer thanksgiving, everyone is silent. It's like, okay, so maybe it's because they're thinking of those 98 things or those 14,000 things, because I'm thinking, surely someone was healed during the week or someone was blessed in some way. And those things need to be named so that they can be recognized. So this morning I'm going to take this time to talk about gratitude. I'm thinking, I'm not going to tell you anything that you don't already know. I don't think I have any terrific insights, but it's time for all of us to think about being grateful. And one of the things I would like to talk about, what gratitude is and what militates against it. And I have a couple of prayers and sayings that I would start with. The first one is by Peter Gomes, who was the chaplain at Harvard for many years. He died just not too long ago, and he was black, and he talked about his black community that he grew up in. They started each morning with this prayer: "Thank you, Lord, for allowing us to rise from our beds this morning in our right minds." And then, obviously, I never met him, but he had in parentheses after right minds, more or less. So, but then there's another prayer attributed to the Buddha. It's like, let us rise up and be thankful. For if we didn't learn a lot today, at least we learned a little. And if we didn't learn a little, at least we didn't get sick. And if we got sick, at least we didn't die. So let us all be thankful. And then I would say one more just from the general Thanksgiving in the Episcopal Church. It's a very long prayer, but just this one line. We thank you for our creation, our preservation, and all the blessings of this life. And the final one, which isn't a prayer, but was a line from Rumi, the Persian poet: gratitude is the wine of the soul. Go ahead, get drunk. That's a kind of an Episcopalian thing to say. So with all of that as I hold background and encouragement, why aren't we more grateful? And what stands in the way of gratitude? And I would suggest that most often it's because we don't even think about it. I think, speaking for myself, but I don't think I'm unusual, I think very often we go through our days on autopilot. We just take it all for granted. And I was thinking of this as the other day when I drove past the lake. And I thought, more than once, I have driven past the lake without even noticing this awesome and beautiful body of water. So that's one way that waking up comes in. And then I think there's complacency. Somebody once said, we think that Tuesday is going to be just like Monday, that everything's just going to continue the same. And we'll go on as always. And in that regard, I have a story. I have a son-in-law who's a Brit, and he was doing some research for his PhD in Indonesia. And he was at one of the far-flung islands. And he realized that his visa was about to expire. And apparently in Indonesia, that's not a good thing to have happen. And so he was really anxious, and he had to get all the way to Jakarta to get the visa renewed. And there were two planes. One was on Thursday and one was on Tuesday. And he wanted the Thursday plane. And he said he tried everything. He said he did all the phone calls, including the one is, let me speak to your manager. And then he tried going down to the office and making a plea in person. And then he said, I finally went and tried a bribe. And finally, the agent said to her, "What is it about no that you don't understand? There is no room on the Thursday plane." So he booked for the Tuesday plane and just kind of laid low over the weekend so he wouldn't have to be worried about needing to present his visa. Got on the Tuesday plane. As they're coming in for a landing, the seatmate says to him, "So did you hear about what happened to the Thursday plane?" And it had crashed into the mountains that surround the airport and everyone was killed. So I said to him when he told me that story, "Okay, you've just been given your life back. What are you going to do with it?" So I would say the truth is that for each of us, every morning when we get up, every day, that's the question for us. You've just been given your life back. What are you going to do with it? So there's another problem, I think, with gratitude. Someone has said that it is a cold virtue. It's unattractive because it places us in a situation of obligation. And we don't really like to owe anything to anyone. And maybe it's because we're afraid that the debt will be called in at an inconvenient time or in an inconvenient way. And here's a story about this. This is again from Peter Gomes, and he tells the story, apocryphal, I'm sure, about two Yankee fishermen off the coast of Maine in a rowboat. And all of a sudden, a pea soup fog just descends, and you can't see your hand in front of your face. And then they hear the ominous sound of a large boat approaching. And they're thinking, they can't see us, we can't see them, they're going to slice us in half. So the one who's got the oars says, "Okay, here's the plan. I'm going to row and you pray. And then we'll see if we get out of this." And at the very last minute, the fog lifted, the boat saw them and swerved. And the rower says to the other guy, "Have you started praying?" He said, "No, not yet." He said, "Don't." He said, "Because we don't want to be beholden." So we don't want to owe anybody. So there's another reason, I think, and that is that we want to think that we're self-sufficient. And I noticed that Phil Sweet spoke here last week, and he spoke on the human ability for self-deception. And I'm guessing that was probably a wonderful message. And I think, but that fits here as well. We like to think, self-deception, that we are completely independent, that we can make it on our own. And I know Jim is here, and he was instrumental in bringing Chuck Collins to the county a couple of years ago, and you remember that was Chuck's message. There is no such thing as a self-made person. And but I think what happens when you say that, all of us can remember that we've worked hard, we've met a lot of challenges, and as someone pointed out, we can call those headwinds, things that we have had to struggle against and conquer. But we have a tendency to forget what could be called tailwinds, all of those invisible benefits that we have all received. I remember Chuck Collins talking about good public schools, public libraries, adults that were interested in him. And I'm thinking economic advantages, parents that encouraged us with their expectations, our innate gifts and talents is. So if you're struggling into a headwind, those headwinds allow us to say, "I earned this." But if we recognize the tailwinds, then we can also say, "I received this, and I'm grateful." So there is also a theological piece here. I'm sure you know that there's a strand of thinking in the Hebrew scriptures that teaches that only the sinful suffer, and only people who are good are going to receive blessings because of their goodness. that same kind of thinking is alive and well, I think, and still with us today. It's called the prosperity gospel, and it's most often preached by TV evangelists, and they have perfect hair. I did check my hair before I got up here this morning. I don't know how they do it, but anyway. And their message always is that the good will prosper, and if you're on the right track, only good things will happen to you. I would suggest that one of the problems here is that there's a superficial understanding of blessings. I've only heard a couple of these guys, so I'm coming from a limited perspective, and I realize that. But most often, the blessings, it sounds to me, are things like a bigger house and a fancier car or a trophy spouse, whether you're a man or a woman. I don't know if women get trophy spouses, but anyway. But there's another strand in the Old Testament, and you will remember the story of Job, who led an exemplary life and did nothing but good things, but still had all kinds of suffering. And you will remember that in the end, God vindicated Job. So when I'm talking about good things and about blessings, I'm not talking about those superficial things, but I'm talking about those kinds of things that come to us that allow us to flourish, that allow us to grow into our full humanity. In Christian language, you would say that those blessings are glimpses of the goodness of God. Or if you prefer the philosophical language, you could say the same thing using Plato's idea of the good. And finally, I'd like to point out that gratitude has an element of reciprocity. We're meant to receive our blessings gratefully, but then to pass them along. I read somewhere that in primitive Eskimo art, people are depicted with holes in the palms of their hands. And the idea being that whatever they received or took, something would always pass through to someone else. And one last story, Mother Teresa, there's a wonderful story that she had taken a bag of rice to a woman who had several children, and they were destitute, starving. So she shows up, gives her the bag of rice, and the mother excused herself, took the bag of rice, divided it in half, and took half of it to share with her neighbor who was in a similar situation. So, gratitude, it's the time of the year to think about it always, but I would like to lead you, I think, with that Rumi quote. Gratitude is the wine of the soul. Go on, get drunk. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you. Reverend Sinai looks forward to hearing back from you. Anyone that chooses to participate in the discussion, remember to work your way over to this side of the room a few minutes after we have ended the service, and we will talk more about gratitude and blessings. Well, the holidays tend to make me a little bit sentimental and nostalgic too, and I suppose that's partly why I chose Bible verse for our closing words. It is a nod to my Christian upbringing and to my parents who truly lived life as positive and grateful individuals. Philippians 4:8 was one of my dad's favorite verses. Finally, my brothers and sisters, whatsoever things are true, whatsoever things are honorable, whatsoever things are just, whatsoever things are pure, whatsoever things are lovely, whatsoever things are of good report, if there be any virtue, and if there be any praise, think on these things.
Every path you know, Lord,
Thank you for joining us. Have a great rest of your Sunday.